All right, so this week we're going to go outside of standard tuning. So we're going to be retuning our guitars to play both the rhythm and the lead part for this. And this is in what's called DADGAD tuning. That's D-A-D-G-A-D, from the lowest string to the highest string. And I'm going to show you how to set your guitar up in DADGAD. You can do it really quickly, and you don't even need to get out a tuner. You can just use the guitar to tune to itself. And it's something super easy to do. But once you're in that tuning, it unlocks a whole different set of variables. And it makes you think a little different. So if you're, get maybe stuck in a creative rut and you're wanting some different ideas for both rhythm and lead, you might try some alternate tunings, and this is a really good one. So in this video, we're gonna break down all of the lead, everything that I played note for note. However, if you'd like to learn some of the extras, like the rhythm part, and the rhythm is actually really cool. So it sounds like this. Let me just give you a little sample. Very pretty on its own. Some kind of unusual chord voicings and things. So we're going to break all of that down as well. There's the tablature, there's the MP3 jam track so that you can practice playing all of the stuff you're going to learn in this video. You can get all of those extra things by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP451. All right, so now the first thing we need to do is we need to get our guitar into this DADGAD tuning. So I went back and retuned my guitar. I'm in standard tuning now. And the first little note I'll make on DADGAD tuning is strings 5, 4, and 3 in standard tuning. Those notes stay the same. They're the same in DADGAD tuning as well. So we can keep those. So only half of the strings are being changed anyway. The first string we're going to change is our 6th string. We're going to lower it to a D. So that's just drop D tuning. So you take your D note, which is your open 4th string, and you drop your 6th string to match that. You can do that with your ear. And then you do the same thing on the 1st string. So you take the high E string and you lower it to a D. So now you've got 3 Ds in 3 different octaves. I think that's right. Okay, so that's the only other string that we have to change then is that B string. We need to lower it to an A. So we've got an A on our 5th string, so we're just going to match those. And that's it. That's what's called DADGAD tuning. You can get out a tuner if you want to fine tune it, but as long as it sounds good to ear, that's really what matters. Now, when I strum that, that's actually an open D sus4 chord. Kind of weird to think of an open, we're going to be starting with a sus4. But that's just what it is. And when you're in this tuning, it allows you to do some things that you couldn't do in standard tuning. And one of those things is just different voicings for chords. So if you play like this, you're playing a D chord, which is I'm just using 2 strings there. And then I can play a G chord. It's actually a G add 9. Very pretty sounding though. You get real open and chimey. And so those are some of the chords that we're going to be using, but that's in the rhythm lesson. So I'll explain all of that in that video. But in this one, we're going to talk about the lead. So how do you play lead when you're in this new tuning? All of the things we know are kind of thrown out the window, right? Well, not really. Basically, if we go back, everything we're going to be doing in this lead, by the way, is major pentatonic scale. There's no minor pentatonic stuff. So we're going to be staying in the D major pentatonic scale. So if I was in standard tuning, where would my D major pentatonic scale be? Hopefully you know that. But what I do, just a quick way to get there, and we're going to start in pattern 1. That's kind of our home base usually. So what I would do is I'd find the A shape. I'd play the D chord using the A shape. Remember, strings 5, 4, and 3 are the same in DADGAD as they are in standard. So that's still a D chord, so like a D5. But where my pinky is, that bar, that becomes the root fret. So pattern 1 then would be, and then you'd go to string 2 and go like this. This would be in standard tuning. You'd go 7, 10, and then 7, 10 on the 1st string. But since we lowered strings 1 and 2, remember we lowered them by a whole step. So we went 2 frets down from where they would normally be. That means to play those as they would be in standard tuning, you just go up 2 frets. So And they're in relation to each other the way that they would be in standard tuning. So this is the pentatonic scale, the major pentatonic scale for D when you're in DADGAD tuning. Then we come back down here where we normally would be. Right? Now I'm going to ignore the 6th string. I mean, obviously you would offset it the same as you would the 1st string, but when you're playing lead, you're not usually playing, you don't have to worry too much about that 6th string anyway. So that's the setup. Now the cool thing is, if you think about your patterns, so you have pattern 1 of the major pentatonic scale, which we know now is here. So pattern 5 of the major pentatonic scale, which is just behind it, looks like this. Now look at that. That's frets 9 and 7. And then remember, strings 5, 4, and 3 were also in frets 9 and 7. So that means my entire major pentatonic scale is just between the 7th fret and the 9th fret. Now there's a repeat there. That note's repeated, but who cares? It's proper, right? It's the right note in the scale. So that means I can run up and down between frets 7 and 9, and I'm playing the D major pentatonic scale. When I realized that, it was like, whoa, hold on, that's pretty cool. And it allows you, because there's some, they're sort of positioned differently, you can get some different effects. So anyway, I wanted to set this up, that's what's going on with our major pentatonic scale. And if you want to go back to strings 1 and 2, you just slide up 2 frets, and everything you do on those 2 strings would be where they are in terms of shape. Now obviously we moved them up 2 frets, but the shapes are the same, the way that they relate to each other. One other benefit of lowering the tension, so we lowered them by a whole step, is that it's easier to bend on an acoustic. I can do full bends like I would on an electric guitar. It actually feels like an electric guitar because there's less tension. So that also gives you more things you can do that you wouldn't be able to do in standard tuning on an acoustic guitar. Okay, so let's listen to this first part of the lead so that we can get that in our ear, and then we're going to break it down. Okay, so the way that I play that, very easy. It's taking advantage of this little thing that I showed you between the 7th fret and the 9th fret. We're going to start on the 4th string, and then we're going to, I think I hammered on actually to the 9th fret. And then I'm gonna, so it's 7, 9 on the 4th string, and then the 7th fret 3rd string. That's the first little phrase. That comes in on the and of 3. So when you're counting it in, it's 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, so that's the first thing. The next thing goes like this. So it's kind of a response. So like call, and then a response. Now look at that. That's just barring the first 3 strings on the 7th fret. 1, 2, 3. Again, this is a kind of thing, it's a cool sound, and all of those notes would be in that major pentatonic scale. But if you were playing in standard tuning, you wouldn't think to do that and let it ring out like that. Or I wouldn't anyway. But it's just sort of making me think about different things. Another reason why getting out of standard tuning can be a good thing, especially when you're in those creative ruts. This is one of the first things I do is I just retune my guitar, and then I start to find new things. Okay, so we have 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, so the next phrase we're going to learn, which is really cool, sounds like this. Isn't that pretty? Now here's what's interesting, and this is just my old habits kicking in, but a new discovery. What I did is I slid up into what would be pattern 2. If we were in standard tuning, this would be pattern 2 of the major pentatonic for D, right? So I just went into the old shapes that I normally would be playing out of, but instead that doesn't, it's a different sound. Now pattern 2 would sound like this. It would go, right? So, and that would work too. But I went to, so obviously I'm changing my fingering there to get the sound since we had to retune the 2nd string. So what I did was this, which is the shape for pattern 2 if we're in standard tuning. So my ring finger is on the 11th fret 3rd string, my middle finger is on the 10th fret 2nd string. And that note would be in the major scale, But it wouldn't be a note I would think to play if I'm just sort of sticking in the pentatonics. But you know what? It sounds pretty cool, and so I left it in there. But it was just an accidental discovery, just going back to the old shapes of what I would do if I was in standard tuning. So it's a slide in, and then slide back down into pattern 1. So it goes like this. And then we're going to go, so that's walking right down between 9th fret and 7th fret. We're going to stay in that little box there. And then I'm going to go back to the 7th fret 3rd string, slide that note down. So I didn't pick it, I went, slide that down to the 6th fret 3rd string, and then I landed on the 9th fret 4th string. So all together, that's what that little phrase sounds like. This note, by the way, would also be in the major scale. So major pentatonic, but then this is one of those extra notes from the major scale. And I know that from standard tuning anyway. That's nothing that's unique to DADGAD. But this is very unique, and it's a unique sound. It kind of catches your ear. Okay, so after this little phrase, then I walked it down. Listen. That's really cool. I just love the sound of that. And I found that accidentally when I was going through the chord, this little chord pattern that I was kind of working on. I got to this G chord. It's a G add 9. And then I went down and discovered that. Now that I had to look this up because I wasn't sure what these chord names were, but this would be an E11. And again, that's going to be covered in the part 2 video, the rhythm part. But I thought that was a cool sort of twist to the conventional, walk down of this, in the key of D. You throw in that E chord and almost changes keys in that one spot. And so what I did is I walked down. This would be on the 9th fret 4th string. We go 9, 8, 7. That's just chromatic between the 9th fret and 7th fret, that little box. And then I went and I slid into that 6th fret 4th string. Now look at what my fingers are doing here. Now this is something I had to just work out by ear because I wasn't sure how to, I'm not really sure how to make any proper chords in this tuning. I have to kind of work them out. But that's a really pretty E7, which works nicely with that E11. So what I'm doing, I have strings 2 and 3 on the 7th fret, and then the 6th fret 4th string. And that's an E7. So I went 4, 2, 4, 3. Okay, so let's take it from the beginning and play up to that point. All right, so the song repeats itself after that. We go through the same chord progression. And this second time I played, we're going to learn that now. Now it sounds like a lot, but it's actually all played on strings 1 and 2. I mean, it's very limiting in terms of variables that we're working with. And this is one of the advantages of knowing shapes and patterns and thinking about the neck that way is I knew that I was in this pattern 5 here, and I wasn't even thinking about the key so much, but if I know, if I'm on strings 2, and I'm only limited to strings 1 and 2, by the way, if I know that this is pattern 5, then if I come up to here, I'm in pattern 1, and if I come up into here, I'm pattern 2, right? So I just know that by just the shapes alone. So what I did, I started in pattern 5 there, because remember that's the top part of this little pentatonic thing I explained. So sliding into the 9th fret 2nd string, 7th fret 1st string, 9th fret 1st string. And then I come up into what would be pattern 1, the top part of pattern 1. Remember, we had to offset it from what it would traditionally be in standard. So we're going to learn this. Actually, I did it like that. So it's 12th fret, 11th fret, and then we come down to the 9th fret and go, there's a hammer-on pull-off between the 9th fret and the 10th fret. So it's and then we slide that down. So I only picked that once. 9th fret, 1st string, hammer on, pull off, slide. Just practice that little move. So it's, and then after that it's, so that's 9, 7, a slide into the 9th fret on the 2nd string from the 8th fret. Okay, let's take it from the beginning of this little part that we're on. So it goes. Now watch this. So after this, we're going to slide into what would be, I'm thinking of pattern 4 of the major pentatonic scale, but only on strings 1 and 2, right? And not in standard tuning, but just in relation to each other. So I know if this is pattern 5, then right next door is pattern 1, and then right next door to pattern 5 this way is pattern 4. That's how I'm thinking about it. And that's why I'm just sliding from one to the other, because I don't know in this tuning, I don't know where these things are, but I do know where they are in relation to each other. So I know that if this is pattern 5, I don't care what tuning I'm in, then I can just come up here into pattern 1. Hopefully that's making sense. So sliding into pattern 4, that's 5th fret, or sorry, 7th fret to the 5th fret on the 2nd string. And then watch this. This is where we're going to go hit the 3rd string. So it's the 6th fret 3rd string. And then we're going to go. So it's 7, 5, 6 on the 3rd string. And then we're going to go 7, 5 again. And then I'm going to hit that same note here on the 4th fret and come down to the 2nd fret. That's on the 2nd string. So altogether, this last phrase goes. Now this is the triangle. For those of you that know what I'm talking about in pattern 4, that little pattern 4 triangle, shape-wise, it's just the pattern, it's the shape of that triangle. But it sounds different because of the offset and the new tuning. And I just thought this is another area that has a cool, different sound. So I'm taking those same shapes that I normally would play in standard tuning, and I'm rediscovering new sounds. Now, not all of the shapes that you know from standard tuning are going to work, but play around with them. You're going to find some new stuff, and it just gives you new sounds and new inspirations. So, now after that I went, I like the sound of that. I got that from somewhere, I don't know where, but it's just a real nice chimey sound. I had to just work it out. I don't know even really what this would be coming from scale-wise. Actually, it would be the pentatonic scale. It would be the D major pentatonic scale. So to play this, I've got my ring finger on the 4th fret 2nd string, and then I've got my index finger on the 2nd fret 3rd string, and I play it like this. So it's 3, 1, open 1 string, 2, 3. So 3, 1, 2, 3. Kind of staggered it in terms of timing. And then watch this. That's the next phrase. And I'm making a D chord shape. So think of your D chord in first position. I'm playing it here, and I'm going. So it's 3, 1, and then 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's the timing of it. So from here it's. And what that creates is an E9. Remember, this is the part where the song goes to that E. And this sounds really good over there. All right, let's take it from the beginning and listen to everything up to that point. All right, so now the song goes into the second part, which is really just vamping over an A chord using this DADGAD tuning. So it's something like this. And it's just, you know, the common thread in that is that A note. And so I was going to be playing in A. Now this is the part of the lead thing that's going to blow your mind. So as I explained, when we were playing D major pentatonic scale, we can take the notes between the 7th fret and the 9th fret, strings 5 all the way up to string 1. You can take the same like little 2 fret thing and play it down here between the 2nd fret and the 4th fret and include the open strings, and you'll have the D major scale. So watch this. Now that's pretty cool, and there's a lot of possibilities that come out of that. Now obviously there's some repeated notes there, right there. And because it's just 2 strings like that, you can use 2 fingers and you can actually play a little faster. Now here's what's cool. As we go into this second part, which is all in A, remember it's just vamping over an A chord basically, different shapes and stuff, but it's just an A chord. If you play, now A is the 5 chord of D, which is the key of the song, and if you play Mixolydian mode, so if I play A Mixolydian mode, that's going to sound really nice because it's a dominant 7 scale basically, and it will resolve back to the 1. And if you'll remember to play the Mixolydian mode, all you have to do is play the major scale of the key that you're in, or major scale of the 1 chord. So all I have to do is play the D major scale over that A chord. Now some of you are going to follow me, some of you aren't. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, I'll put a lesson up. I'll put 2 lessons up actually. It's a part 1 and part 2 on the screen. It's on modes, and I cover that in that. But basically, if you think about what's going on here, put all these pieces together, which we just talked about, you've got your D major scale now, which is your A Mixolydian mode. So when we come into this part, I can just improvise down here between frets 4 and 2. Right? Whatever I do there is going to work. So anyway, I just wanted to set up this A part with that. I thought that was pretty cool. So I started with this. Now that's kind of a bluegrass thing, but it's using this 2nd fret, 4th fret thing. So I'm barring there, just where I would if I was playing an A chord in first position or in standard tuning. But I'm starting with the 5th string, and then I'm going to do a hammer-on between the 3rd fret and the 4th fret on the 5th string. So it's 5th fret open, hammer-on. There's the 4th string, which is behind the bar there on the 2nd fret. 4th fret, back to the 2nd fret. So all together, that first little lick. And then we come up here to this note, which is your A note played an octave higher than this. And again, this, everything I just showed you would work in standard tuning. That is standard tuning, just for those strings. Okay, so that's a great little takeaway bluegrass lick that you can work into whatever, or blues. Now, here's what's cool. Watch this. That's the next thing we're going to learn. So this lick, I'm sliding up to, okay, again, I was doing what I've done all along. I'm going into old shapes that I know in standard tuning. And I just experiment, and I found that this one works too. So I'm sliding from the 4th fret up to the 6th fret on the 3rd string. And then I've got my middle finger on the 5th fret 2nd string. That would be pattern 2 of the major pentatonic scale for A if we were in standard tuning, right? You would have your pattern 1 and here, and then you'd have your pattern 2 up here. But since we're in this new tuning, it sounds different when I hit that note. And I thought it worked. Obviously that note is in the scale, so that's why it works. But it's just a different way of thinking. It's getting you out of the box, even though you're staying in the box in terms of shapes. So then we're going to slide back to the 4th fret. So 4, 2, 4, 2, 3rd string, 4th string. And then watch this. So that's the 4th fret, open 3rd string, back to the 4th fret, 2nd fret. I love the sound of that. It sounds so bluegrass to me. And then, now this is the same thing we've already done. 3rd fret to the 4th fret, 2nd fret, 4th fret on the 4th string. And then little hammer on, and then back to your open A. So all together, let's put that phrase together. I'll play through it slowly. We have... Now you might want to, pause that and just kind of work that out. But that's what's going on. But now let's take advantage of this little major scale, D major scale, or A Mixolydian scale. It's the same thing in this area. So we're going to repeat the first part of that like this. And then watch this. I'm going to hit that open 3rd string, which would be like the flat 7 of your A scale, or A Mixolydian scale. Now watch this. All I was doing there was 4th fret to the 2nd fret. I was playing the A Mixolydian scale using patterns. So you can see I'm going 4, 2, open, 4. That's the first part of the pattern. And then we're going to go 2, open, 4, 2. You see the pattern? And then the next part goes open 4th string, 5th fret 4th string. And then we're going to go 2, open, 4th fret 5th string. So, and then it concludes with, so open, 2, 4 to your D. And that puts you in position to loop back to the beginning. The licks that we learned at the first part. So, now that sounds more complicated than it is, but when you analyze it, it's just 2nd fret and 4th fret, really. And then those open strings. Now you're going to have to practice that to get it fluid. That came naturally for me because I've been working on some Clarence White licks and stuff, some bluegrass stuff recently. I kind of go back and forth between blues and bluegrass always. But this is something I picked up from Clarence White. Just the shape, not the notes. It just so happened to work in this. But I was really excited to see that between the 2nd fret and the 4th fret, that gives you the A Mixolydian, the A Mixolydian scale. So you could just try improvising over an A chord. And you can we'll get into, in the part 2 video, we'll get into different, the different chord voicings that I'm using to create all of this. But anyway, that's pretty much the whole thing. Let me back up and play through all of it one more time, and then that will wrap up this part 1 video. Come join us for part 2, where we'll go over the rhythm, and then you'll also have access to the tab and the MP3 jam track so that you can practice playing everything we just learned in this video.